I always hate starting off shows like this, but it must be done. And it just goes to show you once again the time marches on. Like Lori McKenna said in her song, people get old, and this is what happens. We had to say goodbye to two really good, really strong voices in film this weekend. Fred Willard, famous comic actor, you know him in movies like Best in Show, Click. I always think of him in Click, which is weird, but Anchorman as well. He was in that. He passed away at the age of 86. Natural causes. Natural causes was his cause of death, apparently. And in addition, we said goodbye. I was really crushed by this one, too. Not to take any thunder away from the great Fred Willard, but Lynn Shelton, very good independent film director, directed a lot of good comedy dramas. Your Sister's Sister with Mark Duplass, Hump Day, another one with Mark Duplass, Laggy. She passed away from a blood disorder at the very young age of 54. We had to say goodbye to these two greats. Dominic, I know we were talking about Fred Willard a little bit before the show. Your thoughts on his passing?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Yeah, I think of you think of Click whenever you see Fred Willard, which is weird, but at the same time, it's not, because he's just one of those guys where he's in everything. You know his face, you know his presence. He's in so many cameo roles or like 5-minute, 10-minute roles, but he nails it every time, and it's so perfect. He can just be himself and be funny, at least on film, and it's just so satisfying to see him. He has the honor of being also the only live action actor in any Pixar movie, as the CEO president of By and Large. That's just a fantastic role that he just nails so well. And of course, the Christopher Guest movies, a mainstay. Fun fact: the reason why he's such a mainstay, or maybe before or after, I don't know, but the British director Christopher Guest, his wife is Jamie Lee Curtis, who frequently worked with Willard, and I think that's kind of how the orbit came together. And I might be missing one more critical piece of connection there, but it's no surprise that they work together so much, Christopher Guest and Fred Willard. If you haven't seen Christopher Guest movies, I think one of them should be a required viewing, in my opinion. I don't know, have you guys seen any of them? The Christopher Guest movies?
No.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of any off the top of my head that I've seen. I might have seen one or two, but I cannot think of it at the top of my head right now.
They're not blockbusters. They're not that well known, but if you know of them, or if you've seen one, you're going to get hooked. And my personal favorite is Waiting for Guffman. But even then, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, and all that stuff. Yeah, some of the more current works. I haven't seen Mascot, but regardless, yeah, Fred Willard, whatever the natural cause was, it kind of felt like his time. 86, not a bad age to go out on. So it was kind of a bow, tip of the hat to him. And I think his last role ever was the upcoming Space Force comedy that's going to air on Netflix, starring Steve Carell, which honestly sounds right up his alley, because that's supposed to be like a semi-goofy, kind of dry take on like the beginnings of the Space Force in a fictional setting, of course. So I can't wait for that. I was going to watch that anyway, but when I found out he was in it, but then meanwhile, even though Fred Willard's passing just kind of felt like a natural thing, Shelby Lynn.
Lynn Shelton.
Lynn Shelby, yes. I should say I'm not familiar with her. When I was reading up on her stuff, this is just a tragedy, straight up. Fred Willard was natural passing. Lynn Shelby that's just horribly tragic. I don't know if were either of you guys familiar with her work?
I loved a lot of her movies, Lynn Shelton. I followed her from like the early 2010s. Like I remember when Your Sister's Sister came out, I was in high school when I saw it. And she was kind enough to accept my friend request on Facebook many years ago, Lynn Shelton.
Ugh.
So that was kind of sad, just seeing all the tributes and stuff. I didn't realize Fred Willard was as old as he was. Like he's just kind of one of those guys that, like, you think he's just around for. I mean, he looked good. I mean, he looked really good for 86. But like, he's one of those guys too that like you just see him all the time, and it's like he just does not really age. So like I was really stunned. If you would have had me guess, I would have thought maybe 78, 79.
Yeah.
I mean, that's real sad news. Joe, any comment on the passing of Fred Willard, Lynn Shelton?
Unfortunately, I didn't see any movies by Lynn Shelton, so I mean, it sucks to hear, especially at the age she passed. That's way too young still, in my opinion. But as far as Fred, like, you know, he made it to 86, and to me, like, in life, it's like, my goal is to at least make it to 80. Once I get past 80, it's like, okay, I lived a good life at least. I made it here. I think like 80 is like that good mark. So he did, I think, get to live at least like that full life. It does suck that he passed. I mean, when Dom said like you see him in everything, that's honestly true. Like he makes appearances in literally everything comedy.
He was an Anchorman.
That's
you
actually
forget
the
he was
first
an
movie.
Anchorman.
The first movie I saw him in was in that, and then Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. And then recently I've been watching a lot of TV shows because, you know, we're all at home now. And I didn't know he was in Community because I started that recently. He makes appearances throughout Modern Family as well. So, I mean, the guy's got his hands in, like, anything comedy related. And does a lot of voice acting, too, for kids shows. So, it is a great loss on both ends with Lynn Shelton and Fred Willard. So, it does suck to see. And then even, like, recently, too, Jerry Stiller also passed, which was really sad to see as well.
Yeah, Jerry Stiller. That was last week too. That was another staple comic actor too.
Yeah.
Very sad. Always hate starting off shows like this, but you got to pay respects to the veterans in film too. And both Lynn Shelton leaves behind. I mean, a decidedly smaller catalog, but Fred Willard, man, leaves no shortage of great roles, great performances and stuff. You got me really wanting to watch some Christopher Guest movies, Dom. I did see Best in Show years ago. I don't remember it very well. I did see it, though, I remember. So I'm going to have to check that one out. But
also,
big rest in peace.
This is Spinal Tap. Christopher Guest starred in This Is Spinal Tap.
That's what I've seen.
But it is honestly, you wouldn't be mistaken if you thought he directed it because it is like right in line with all of his other movies, and it's no wonder why his style is like that. Real quick, I know we want to move on, but going back to Lynn Shelton, she did direct 5 episodes of one of my favorite shows in the past several years, Glow, the women's wrestling show, the fictional women's wrestling show on Netflix. Yeah. And she was in a long-time relationship with Mark Maron, who is in the show and also has a popular podcast. And that's just got to be horribly tragic for him because that's they were working partners, romantic partners, and it's just really sad. Unlike Jerry Stiller and Fred Willard, where it's like, okay, you know what, it was their time. It's not too much of a surprise that one day we'll see them. Like this, of course, but this is just tragic. Yeah. It's just way before time.